Hello, my name's Riley. I'm going to be talking about the human body's immune response on a cellular level. Now, I know most people can connect symptoms of redness and swelling or pain to things like inflammation or infection, but I'm going to get into things more specifically. Before I do talk about it on a cellular level, I do want to mention that our body's first line of defense is going to be things like our skin barrier, which has natural flora, and then things like tears or mucus that is produced by different glands in our body that either flush or kind of destroy harmful pathogens. So firstly, I do want to go over what is the inflammatory response. Now, I know I already kind of established that inflammation is our body's immediate reaction to injury or infection with symptoms of things like redness, swelling, things like that. But I do just want to point out that there are two different kinds of inflammation. We have acute, which is going to be short-term, things like cuts and colds, and then chronic inflammation is going to be associated with conditions like arthritis or autoimmune diseases, which I will talk a little bit about later on. Now, inflammation responses can be triggered by many different things like bacteria, toxins, viruses, physical injuries, things like that, and most of them are treatable, but if they are left unattended, in severe cases can lead to sepsis, which is where the infection spreads throughout our bloodstream. It causes our pH to drop, becoming acidic, and if it's untreated, that makes the blood pressure drop, and you can die from septic shock. Now I'm going to talk about how our immune system recognizes and responds to threats like those bacteria, viruses, things that I was talking about. So first, it starts off with detecting these things. This is where macrophages, which are a type of white blood cell, come in. They are going to detect and then engulf and destroy any pathogens or foreign organisms. And then we also have natural killer cells, which immediately kill infected or cancerous cells. Then I'm going to talk about adaptive immune response, which is the more specific and effective. We have T and B cells. So T helper cells are what recognize the pathogens and therefore activate other immune cells like our B cells. The B cells are going to release antibodies, which is going to specifically target those pathogens. And we also have cytotoxic T cells, which kill infected cells, similar to natural killer cells. And then we have memory T and B cells, which are especially important because they remember pathogens and diseases that have already been fought by our bodies before. So a good example for understanding this is vaccinations. When you receive a vaccine, it's going to be a weakened part of a virus or bacteria or disease, and that's going to be introduced to our body so that our body can create these memory cells that will help respond faster in the future if there is future exposure. And I think it's really important, especially like learning about the T and B memory cells, that people kind of educate themselves and others about this, especially for reasons like vaccination, because I know a lot of people are hesitant about getting vaccinated because they don't want to be sick. But usually, although maybe you could get symptoms, like when you get a flu shot, you might have like achy body and things like that. It is to help you fight off infection in the future. So now I'm going to talk about how our body transports all these different cells, which is where the lymphatic system comes in. All of these cells, including the T and B cells and macrophages, are going to travel through lymph fluid. And it's basically like a security system where the macrophages are circulating and like looking out for pathogens. Although there are some bacteria and some pathogens that can bypass the macrophages. For example, tuberculosis bacteria has a thicker waxy cell wall So it does allow them to survive inside the macrophage and then grow inside the macrophage, eventually reaching the lungs and causing infection, which is why tuberculosis is such a difficult disease to treat. It takes about 9 months of treatment for an individual to get rid of this disease. But now you might be wondering, okay, well, if that happens, what else could happen? Like, oh, if it doesn't work for this, what if it doesn't work in another way? There are immune disorders like autoimmune diseases and immunodeficiency. So first I'm going to talk about immunodeficiency, which is where the immune system is underactive. In cases of immunodeficiency, like HIV, for example, the virus directly targets the T cells, which, remember, are the cells that alert the B cells to attack the virus. So because it's destroying the ones that alert, there's no alerting happening, therefore there's no defense happening. So over time, the immune system is weakened and eventually the T cell count drops. And once it goes below 200, I believe, that's when an individual can officially be diagnosed with AIDS and then therefore are susceptible to many other infections, which, fun fact, well, I guess not fun, but fact is that a lot of AIDS patients don't die from that disease specifically, but from other opportunistic infections because of such a weak immune system. And then I'm going to talk about autoimmune diseases. On the other hand, is when you have an overactive immune system. The immune system will mistakenly attack the body's own healthy tissue. So an example would be type 1 diabetes, where the tissue that's attacked is the pancreas. The pancreas is what produces insulin. And then arthritis, the joints are attacked. Both immunodeficiency and autoimmune diseases can lead to chronic inflammation, long-term pain, and tissue damage. They are both treatable with symptoms, but not curable. So to wrap things up, the inflammatory response is one of our body's most powerful defense tools, but only effective when balanced. And not only do I find this topic interesting, but again, I think it's really important that we understand how our immune system works because it is what keeps us going every day. Thank you.